Hello everyone, in this video we are going to learn about a balance strategy for multi-currency use standard perpetual contract. The basic logic of the balance strategy is somewhat similar to the grid strategy, but it is simpler and easier to use than the grid strategy. For novice traders, the common contract grid strategy has many parameters, and the risk of shorting is relatively high. If the parameter is set only to go long when the grid strategy encounters a sharp rise in the price, we can only wait and see with the short position or adjust the grid parameters and rerun. However, the grid strategy does not need to start holding a bottom position, and the parameter settings are more flexible. Now let's explain the basic principles of the balance strategy. In the strategy library, we have rented an official FMZ multi-species perpetual contract balance strategy in advance. We can click on the strategy name and jump to the strategy page. On the strategy backtesting page, we can see some parameters of the strategy. The principle of the strategy is very simple. It is set depending on the strategy parameters. A certain bottom position will be held at the beginning. That is, when it starts to run, it will be long by a certain bottom position, and always hold these long positions of fixed value. As the price rises to a certain level, sell some, that is, close out some long positions. If it falls to a certain extent, it will buy some, that is, to fill the position. For this strategy, we need to note that this strategy only supports three future exchanges: Binance, OKEX, and FTX. The strategy needs to be set as one-way position mode, which will be changed automatically during the operation of the strategy. During the strategy operation, this position mode cannot be rechanged on the exchange, because the strategy is running in one-way position mode. The strategy does not support backtesting, because the strategy is a multi-species strategy, and many I/O interface switches are used in the strategy. It is not possible to operate account transactions manually during the strategy operation. That is, it is not recommended to place orders or positions of other varieties manually, as this may affect the margin data. Therefore, when the strategy is running, it is best not to trade manually. The strategy supports the simultaneous operation of multiple contract types of the same margin. For example, if the contracts are all USDT as the margin, then multiple perpetual contracts of different currencies can be operated at the same time, but only the same time of margin can be operated at the same time. It is not possible to operate USDT and BUSD margin contracts at the same time. In this way, a lot of rubles can be saved. That is to say, a multi-currency strategy can be run with one ruble. Let's take a look at the parameters of each strategy. Look at the first parameter, which is used to set the margin currency. For example, if we run the Binance exchange and make USDT-based contracts, if USDT is used as margin, set it to USDT. If BUSD is used as the margin, it can be set to BUSD. That is, it is set according to the denomination currency of the contract trading pair to be done. The next parameter is used to set the trade symbols of which contracts are to be made in total, such as ETH, BTC, LTC, etc. Every one of them are separated by English comma, and the contract balance strategy of these currencies is also done. The next parameter is the hold value, which is the bottom position that the balance strategy starts to hold, and the bottom position that has been held at a fixed value since then. If there are 3 contract currency parameters in previous column, then the corresponding holding value also needs to be set to 3 parameters. The holding value is set to 1,000, that is, a fixed position holding a contract worth 1,000 USDT. If the price rises to a certain level, some long positions need to be closed. If the price falls to a certain level, a certain long position needs to be filled. That is, the value of its holdings is always 1,000 USDT. The next parameter is leverage, which is used to set the exchange leverage. Generally speaking, we can use 10 times leverage. The next parameter is adjustment ratio. That is, as we just mentioned, when the price rises or falls to a certain extent, the operation of closing long positions or filling long positions needs to be carried out. We can't adjust your positions to balance after the price has risen a little bit. So the operation of adjusting the position after a small price change will cause repeated adjustments and repeated balance. It is necessary to wait until the price changes to a certain level before closing or covering long positions. This parameter is used to control under what circumstances the closing and covering operation should be triggered. In addition, this parameter is a percentage. We set it to 0.005. That is, when the price rises or falls by 0.5%, we will balance the position, in addition to being set to balance by percentage of price increase or decrease. The balance strategy can also be set to balance by value. For example, the current initial position holds a contract with a long value of 1,000 U. When the price rises, the contract value exceeds 1,000 U. At this time, the part exceeding 1,000 U needs to be closed. Some balance strategies may be set to make a balance every time the value divides from 1,000 USDT. In fact, this method is the same as price balance strategy. These 2 ways can be balanced according to the price or value deviation. Of course, this percentage is also calculated based on the base price recorded when the strategy was running to open the position. The next parameter is interval. That is, how long the strategy needs to pause after a complete execution of the logic, which is used to control some access frequencies of the strategy interface. This parameter cannot be set to small. For example, it cannot be set to 0. If it is set to 0, the strategy may pull too fast, which may cause some API interface access overlocking restrictions. The next parameter is the closing parameter, usually unchecked. If the balance strategy has reached a certain level, and if we do not want to continue to hold the position, we can check the closing parameter and run it. At this time, the strategy will close all positions. The last parameter is the adjust profit parameter. It was also discussed in the previous issue of the grid strategy. For example, the strategy has made a profit of 1,000 U, of 100 U or 300 U. If we want to withdraw some profit, the data will be out of synchronization after withdrawing the profits in the account. For example, to withdraw 100 U, set the profit adjustment parameter to 100. That is to say, tell the strategy withdraw 100 U of profits and let the strategy data continue to be executed synchronously. If the parameter is not set here, the strategy cannot be synchronized. After explaining all the parameters, we can create a real bot of the strategy and run it. Before creating a real bot, we need to deploy a Docker. We deploy the Docker with one click and enter the platform account password here. Then click on Confirm and we can see that the start of automatic one-click deployment of the Docker. Wait a moment, we need to get the exchange configured first. Again, we use the OKEX Exchange Realbot account for testing. In this list, we select OKEX Futures and enter the API key. Since we have already prepared for the API key in advance, here we just need to copy and paste it in corresponding place. Note that the API key must not be filled in the wrong one. When configuring it, if it is filled in the wrong one, an error will be reported. Click the Add Platform button and enter the login password for authentication. The API key we configure are encrypted locally on the browser, and then configured and uploaded. All the information configured on the FMZ platform is encrypted. That is to say, there is no text information of any API keys on the FMZ platform. Click Authentication and the API key is configured. We click on the Realbot button on the left navigation bar, jump to the Realbot creation page. Click on Add Realbot, jump to the configuration of the Realbot page. We name the Realbot as Test, select the Docker we have just deployed, and then select the Perpetual contract multi-species balance strategy. At this time, we need to configure the strategy parameters. Since it is the U standard perpetual contract, the first parameter here is set to USDT. Trade symbols set to ETH LTC, separated by English comma. Trade symbols are set to ETH LTC, separated by English commas. Set the position value to 300. That is, both ETH and LTC hold a 300U position in the bottom. The default value of leverage is 10. The next parameter that needs to be set is adjust PCT. The adjustment rate needs to be paid attention to because every time the price rises or falls for adjustment, the position needs to be filled or closed. There is a certain amount to fill or close the position, and this amount cannot be less than the minimum trading unit of the exchange. The minimum trading volume of OKEX U standard is one contract, and one contract has its own fixed value. At this time, filling or closing a position cannot be less than the minimum value of one contract. For example, a contract for ETH is 0.1 ETH and a contract for LTC is 1 Litecoin. Therefore, the value of closing or closing a position cannot be less than 0.1 ETH or 1 LTC. When filling a position, it will be calculated based on the price changes. The calculation formula is simple. For example, a contract starts with a price of 10 yuan. If the bottom position is held for 10 yuan, when the price rises by 50%, it is necessary to dump the position, because after the price has risen by 50%, it becomes 15 yuan, and the value of the bottom position held by the contract also becomes 15 yuan, which needs to be deducted by 5 yuan. That is, if the price has risen by 50%, it is necessary to close the contract calculated by this value with the bottom position as the base multiply 50%. At this point, the adjustment PCT needs to be set to a large value. Otherwise, the value of 300U at the bottom position multiply a small parameter will not be enough to open the position. and the strategy will not work. For example, if it is set to 0.5, that is, when the price increases by 50%, it will be adjusted. 0.5 multiplied 300 equals to 150 yield, which is much higher than the value of an ETH contract. Similarly, the value of a LTC contract is also 150 yield, which is much higher than the value of an LTC contract. So it can be run. Click on Add Exchange Object. The trading pair of the exchange object does not need to be set, because the strategy will switch automatically. Click on Add Robot. We can see that the robot has been running. In this robot running interface, we can see that when the strategy starts to run, it will create a bottom position first and buy it. And subsequent balance operations will be carried out, depending on whether the price rises or falls. That's all for the explanation of this chapter. Thank you.